On today's video, we're going to create this very cool 3D website that includes this cute robot that follows your mouse and looks wherever your cursor goes. We're going to do this using Spline and then embed this into a Webflow website. If you've never used Spline before, I've created a crash course, which you can check around here. I'm going to try to keep this to a beginner's level, and we're going to cover modeling the robot, texturing and lighting, and then adding the very cool interactions. Let's rock and roll. So to get started, I went to my friend ChatGPT, which is now integrated with DALL-E to create images, and I asked for a robot made out of basic geometric shapes, and I got this, which is pretty nice. And then I asked him to select one and put it on a black limbo, standing on a cube with a kind of like dark metal and purple lighting. And what we have here is basically kind of like a rectangular with round corners. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a rectangular. Drag it out like this. I think these are somewhat the right proportions. Now, right here on the right, I got corners, and I'm going to use that to create these kind of like round corners. By the way, this is why I'm not choosing a cube. I already have a cube here, but then I won't be able to just make round corners on the front. If I'll make round corners on the cube, it will be round all over, and that's not what I want. I want them to be round on the front and kind of like sharp on the other edges. So I'm doing this with a rectangular, gave it some round corners. Now let's go ahead and extrude this a little bit. It's difficult to see, so I'm going to hit Option and rotate the camera just a little bit so I can see how much depth it has. I reached the limit here, so I'm going to just manually do something like 200. That looks about right. So now I have this kind of like cube with round corners on the front. Now to create the bevels, I can create a little tiny bit of bevel that I can use this. And then you can see I'm going to zoom in by hitting Option and then scrolling with my mouse. Now you can see I have softer edges here, but the really nice round corners here. So I've got the main thing here, maybe even a little less bevel on this. Where's the bevel? Instead of 5, let's go for 3 maybe. Okay, now here you can see that it actually looks as if there's like a cube and then a cube inside of a cube. So what I want to do is I want to actually create like a hole inside of a cube. And this is a great way to talk about Booleans, which is how you remove shapes out of one another. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this cube that we have here, hitting Command D. And now I actually have 2 of them. You can see if I'm moving one of them up, you can see that they're duplicate. And I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller by hitting Option and Shift while I'm making this smaller here. And then you can see it makes it smaller on all edges. But now I do want to make it go out of both sides. So you can see I can pull this. So I basically made it, and I'm going to hit Option to drag it from both sides. And you can see that I've kind of like made a smaller cube that actually goes outside. No, it's not going outside from here. So let's see. Yeah, now it goes out of both sides. And the reason I'm doing this is because I basically want to punch a hole with the interior cube inside the bigger cube. So let's go to the front and see if the size is okay. I think it is. I think it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, for a second, duplicate this cube again, because I'm going to need the inner cube as well. I'm going to hide this for now. And now let's punch out the inner cube out of the outer cube. I'm going to do this by selecting both of them. And then right here, you can see Boolean modifier on the right, and I can either combine them to a new shape or just the intersection. But what I want to actually do is this one, which is basically remove the inner one. And I clicked it, and now you see that I have the combined shape, which is basically a hole inside of this, which is great. Now let's go back to the this box that I've added here. And what I want to do is just make this a tiny bit smaller. And also we need this to be probably the same size as this. I think maybe let's bring it back up here. Cube within a cube, which is similar to what we have here. I can actually go ahead and make holes for these 2 eyes in a very similar way to what we've done previously. So let's go ahead and create a spheres, actually create 2 spheres for the eyes. Let's say this is eye number 1. Let's place this one around here. And let's actually look at the top. So I'm going to click this to look at the top. because you see what I want to do is make sure that this is here. I also see that this one, the inner block is actually too big. So let's make that one smaller and bring it up here. So it's exactly here in the front. And the eye is about halfway in and halfway out. That's actually nice. I'm going to rotate the camera again. Let's see about the position of the eye. I think it's okay. Let's duplicate this so that we have a second eye, and let's place that one here. Okay, so we've got the eyes. I want to create the eye sockets, which means I'm going to need to punch out circles that are a little bit bigger than these inside the inner cube. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to duplicate this sphere, make it a tiny bit bigger, and then select it and the inner cube and punch them out. Same way with the Boolean operator. And now we've got this kind of like socket in here. And you can see inside of the Boolean operator, if I go here and just duplicate this sphere that I have here and just move it, basically duplicate a hole to create another hole, and I'm just going to position it in the right place. Let's go to the front to see that it's accurate. It's actually accurate. Okay, so we've got basically the head, and we've got these two eyes. Actually here, they're looking a little bit more to the center, but never mind. I've made them a little bit more to the top. Okay, now we've got these ears, I guess. Let's just create like a ring around them because we haven't created rings previously. So let's do this by going here and creating a cylinder, and I want to create a cylinder right here, something like this. And let's see if we can do here, basically hollow out to create something like, yeah, something like a ring. Let's rotate this so that we can see what we're doing. Maybe make this a little bit bigger and make the ring hollow, something like this. Now let's look at the front. Now let's look at the size. It's way too much outside. So I can do this. And actually, you know what? Let's actually make it to go out of both sides. Okay, not super accurate, but not bad. I guess it's okay. If we want, we can also create an orb here to make this, but let's continue with the body right now. Let's say the head is pretty much okay. I think I'm happy with the head. You know what? If I'm done with the head, it's a good idea for me to actually group this thing because I want to be able to move this later around and treat this whole thing as one object. So I'm going to shift select everything that we've created so far. I'm going to hit Command G to group them together, and I'm going to call this head. And that's going to enable me later to move it around and animate it and stuff like this. Let's go ahead and create the body. So for the body, what I think I'm going to do is, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go ahead and create a cube this time. Let's go ahead and create the cube here, something like this. And for this cube, let's look at the top to see that it's not even below the head. So let's go ahead and take it, move it around here. Okay, so now the soon-to-be body is in the right place, actually below this probably. Move this down. Okay, so what I want to do with this, actually, you know what? Let's hide the head just so that we can work. I have this eye toggle here. I'm just going to hide this for now. What I want to do is I want to make this round and make the top part of it smaller. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use smooth and edit. Actually, not smooth and edit. That's not what I want. I'm going to remove the corners. Yep. And now I'm going to smooth and edit, and I can give it even more level so that it's rounder. But what I want to do is I want to add some edges. I'm going to add an edge and use this to move the edge to the top. And you'll see in a second why I want to do this. Something like this, and I'm going to add another edge right here, and I'm going to take that one to the bottom. Okay, so now you can see I have kind of like a sphere, and you might ask yourself, why didn't I create a sphere to begin with? And the reason is I want to now move into selecting the points, the vertexes, and I'm going to select all the ones at the top, and I'm going to hit, when I'm holding Option and Shift, I'm going to scale this down just a tiny bit. And now you can see that, I've created this kind of like a cone, I guess, which is similar to what we have here. I think this yeah, I think this looks okay. I think this actually is the right shape that we want. So I can click out of that. Maybe we might want to change kind of like the proportions. And basically the body is going to be basically this. I'm going to duplicate it and rotate it. Actually, exactly, I want to rotate it 180 degrees. So let me undo that. Let's go to do the rotation from here. Let's try 180 degrees on the y-axis. Did that work? Nope, that's not the axis that I wanted to rotate. So let's do 180 here. Yep, it was on the x-axis. Okay, so I've got this, and now let's change the proportions to something like this. And I think this is pretty much the body that we wanted, or similar to what we have here. This is a little bit rounder, and I can do this. I can make it a bit more round if I wanted by selecting, doing the editing, the mesh again, and maybe adding another line here and scaling it. Yeah, this one I can, if I wanted to, I could make it more chubby and round this way, but I don't care too much about that. So let's zoom in, see what we've got. We've got the body is all right. And actually, you know what? If I'm looking at here, it seems like the legs are pretty similar. You know, actually, let's duplicate this thing, take it down, scale it, maybe make it a tiny bit taller for the leg. Let's actually look at the front. Okay, so we've got a leg here. Actually, the body is too down at this point. So what I'm going to do, group this, call this body, just because I like to be organized. Move this up here to connect it. Yep, this is connected, and this is going to be leg. So let's do one and actually duplicate and move it. This one here, actually, let's rotate on the Z 180. This looks like a nice leg. We've got this. I'm going to group this, call this leg, duplicate it, move it to the side. And we pretty much have the body. Yeah, we pretty much have nice body here. Now I can go ahead and create the hands too, but I think you pretty much understand it. I would do the cone here as well, and here, not sure, just mini cones I guess I would do. So let's continue by just creating the cube underneath it. Let's go ahead and create the cube underneath it. We've got a perfect cube. Let's see that it's really underneath it like this. Look at the front, put it right below the legs. Okay, so this is great. I think we've got the model right. We would probably also need a floor so that we have the light here on the floor. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a plane. Create that, should probably be bigger. So let me zoom out a little bit and make this bigger, bigger, bigger. Now, let's put this right at the bottom here. So I think we've got the model right. I'm going to make this tiny bit bigger as well. Okay, now we've got the model, which is pretty nice, and that was pretty fast as well. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to create the head interactions just to make sure that it follows, you know, the cursor. And you can see right now I can hit play, and basically we've got this. Now, right now we can pan out with the mouse, which is not the interaction we want. If we click and rotate, this is what it does. What we want to do is we want the head to kind of like follow our cursor. And actually it's super, super easy to do. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick the head, which is already grouped the right way. And I'm going to go here into events, and I'm going to add a new event. Now you can see I've got a bunch of stuff here. What I want to do is to pick an action and do the look at. So this basically is already set up. I can set it up, you know, for the cursor to follow the cursor, right? You can do animation where it follows the camera or other things. In my case, I wanted to follow the cursor. Not sure about these. Maybe we'll need to figure them out later, but let's see what it does just to work, to get started. As you can see, it already works. It was so simple. It already works, and I think it looks good now. I think we can change, you know, how much it moves if we want, but I think that for now, it looks pretty cute, and I like the way that it works. So with that said, we can now continue and work on our textures. Basically what I want to do is I want this whole thing to be kind of like black metal kind of thing. So let's go ahead and find that texture. Actually, I can select everything because everything is going to be the same texture. And I can go here into the materials, and I can look at the Spline library, which includes a bunch of things. Actually, there's one thing that I don't want, and I'll change that later, the eyes. But let's start with metal, and there's some metals here. I'm not sure which one I want to pick. Let's do metal lines, texture 1. No, I don't think that's what I liked. Maybe this, silver roughness. Oh, maybe silver roughness. That's nice. Okay, let me keep that for now. What I wanted to do is to select a different one for the eyes. So I can go ahead into the head and look at the spheres. So this sphere, let's disassociate it from this silver roughness. And let's go ahead and pick, actually not just for that, for the sphere and for this one as well. For both of these, let's open up the material and let's go with something reflective maybe. I'm gonna pick something random. We'll see if that works. Okay, so now we've got a texture and it's already starting to look better, but now we really want to create this dramatic kind of like lightning that we have here. So we've got a few things going on here. Number one, we've got two different spotlights. One of them is kind of like white and the other is purplish. And the other thing is there's a tiny bit of glow kind of like coming out of the light. So let's see how we're going to do this. First of all, I'm going to zoom out just a tiny bit here. And let's go ahead and create some lighting. So by default, we've got this directional light, which you can see here, but I don't want directional light. It's just like light in one direction. What I want here is a spotlight, right? It's a light that is only spotting this one area so that everything around it is actually super dark. So I'm going to delete this directional light and let's go ahead and find a spotlight here. Okay, so now you can see that I can play around with where it is. So again, let's zoom out a tiny bit. Let's go around. Let's actually give it a little bit of an angle and take it out. I think it's, if I'm looking at here, it's kind of like from the top right side. Let's make it, I don't want to take it up a little bit, but maybe we need to look at from the top to understand, okay, maybe we need to bring it somewhere around here. Okay, maybe this is good. So you can see that right now we get a very sharp spotlight. And right here from the light panel, we can go ahead and actually blur this out a little bit. Edge blur is 0. I'm going to blur that actually a lot, I think. Maybe I'm also going to increase the intensity. I don't know. We'll see about that later. Decay is how fast the light disappears. Maybe this is good. Maybe we need to bring this up a tiny bit to the upper side here. Okay. And then the other one that we want to bring in is a purple light. So let me duplicate this light, move this one to the other side and rotate it so that we have light coming from the different direction. Let's actually move this out a little bit. Maybe we'll take it a little bit from the back, do a backlight, something like this, and change the color here of the light to something purplish. I guess something like this maybe. Is this good? I don't know. It's time to find an angle that we like. So let's go here. Let's also move to perspective. Okay, and rotate that to this angle. Let's zoom out a tiny bit. Now this is actually too much of a zoom. And let's play around with this. So this is, I think, right now, maybe a little bit too dark. Maybe we want to bring one of these lights. Actually, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to add another light, another spotlight maybe, that is just going to give it like a general point light. Yeah, that is going to give just like a general light here at the front, but is very, very small. So way smaller, just like what is maybe 1.2 or something, just so that we can see something. But I don't want this light here at on the floor because I want the floor to be dark. I'm also thinking whether I like the perspective or this orthographic one better. And I also think that we've got too much light here and maybe we need to blur them out even more. So let's go ahead and blur out these edges and blur out these edges here as well. I think I want to bring the purple light tiny bit to the front. One thing that you can see that I'm doing right now is I'm moving the camera a lot to kind of like find the right position for the lightning. And I always want to come back to the same angle that I'm trying to work with. So a good thing for me at this point, I think, would be to add another camera. Let's see if I can add a camera. And this camera, where is the camera? Okay, I can switch between the cameras here. So this camera is always going to be fixed. Let's fix this. Let's find the position that we want and the zoom that we want. And yeah, something like this. Let's play this. Okay, one more thing is I want to get rid of this. You can see that the background itself here is gray. Let's turn that into black. So I'm going to click outside not to select anything and just change the scene background to complete black. Okay. And now, okay. Now I think that this is what I wanted and it looks pretty cool, but I think it's too dark when I'm looking this way. When I'm looking this way, it's a little bit too dark. So let's take the point light that we have and maybe move the point light around here so that even if I'm looking this way, yeah, there's a tiny bit of light on my face. And I think it looks pretty cool right now. Okay, it looks pretty cool. The only thing that we didn't do is add this kind of like a glowy effect. And the way to do that, again, I'm going to deselect everything just to go back to my scene. And I can turn in effects here. And under the effects, you can see that we've got this bloom effect. So I'm going to turn this on. And now you can see everything got this little bit of a glowy effect. I can crank that up even if I want to with the intensity. I'm not sure how much I want this, but let's play it around. Now we got this kind of like a misty vibe to it with the glow. It's actually pretty cool. I'm liking this. I'm liking this. This looks pretty cool. Okay, so I think with that, it's time to go ahead and embed this in our website. The way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to go ahead into my export settings. I'm going to use the viewer because I'm going to embed it in a Webflow website. And just make sure that I have scene one and that I'm rendering the camera versus the personal camera, which is the one that we use to move around. I don't want a logo. Okay, here's something that is important. Mouth event is, because my interaction is tracking my mouth. So if I'm going to set this as local, it's going to basically only make this interaction work if I'm hovering on top of the canvas. And if I'm going to do global, which is what I want, then even if I'm hovering on top of other elements or outside of this spline embed, it's still going to work. So I want to make sure that this is set to global. And I think that we are ready to go. I'm going to hit update viewer. I'm going to copy this viewer code here. And I'm going to head into my Webflow project. And I've got a basic website here set up with a spline element inside. All I have to do is go ahead and paste up this element inside. And it's a little bit, I guess, to the side. Let me see why it happens. Maybe if I move this around. Exactly. So it's 100% of the screen. It actually looks pretty good right now. And it also loads up and looks and follows my mouth, which is pretty cool. So not bad for a few minutes of work creating this from scratch using Spline. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. You can go ahead and try it on your own. And if you're interested in a full-on Spline course, there's a wait list below. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.